The government's mining tax is set to pass the Senate, with the Greens confirming their support for it. However, in a flexing of their muscle, the Greens will attempt to block $2.4 billion in tax cuts for big business. For more, Sky News chief political reporter Kieran Gilbert spoke a short time ago with the Employment and Financial Services Minister, Bill Shorten.
The government's committed to lowering the company tax for all Australian companies. We can't understand why Mr Abbott in particular doesn't want small business to get a tax cut. We can't understand why he would rather see a few of the richest companies in the world make more money than ever before, whilst the rest of Australian business, including small business, are feeling the impacts of the mining boom with the high dollar. You know, the mining sector's going all right in Australia, but you don't have to live on another planet to know that the rest of Australian business is doing it quite hard.
But politically, it actually is a bit of a bonus for the government, isn't it? Because you've got a bit of breathing space when you try and return to surplus, because you don't have to dish out the reduction in the company tax rate for the big end of town. You get the political bonus of providing the tax cuts for small business, but a bit of leeway in terms of the surplus.
Now, any student of Australian business and economic history since the mid-80s knows that part of Australia's success was derived through the reduction in the company tax rate. Back in 1983, when Hawke and Keating came to power, the company tax rate was north of 46%. They reduced it to 33%, and we saw a lot of Australian companies do well in the 80s and 90s as a result.
But in the meantime, it is a bit of breathing space, isn't it? For at least for a couple of years.
I don't want to do anything which means that the mining boom benefits aren't spread throughout the whole of Australia. What the story of Australia at the moment is that the mining boom is taking the resources into it, fair enough. It's pushing the dollar higher, and that has a problem for the rest of Australian business. We need to be able to make life easier for Australian business, which employs 2 in every 3 Australians.
OK, well, the Greens are not going to support that. The government is going to be have your bid to provide tax cuts across the board blocked. So what are you going to do? You obviously deliver the mining tax and as much as you can of the tax cuts. Is that the plan? And you put on hold the big business tax cuts?
No, I don't have a crystal ball about how the vote will go. I certainly do believe that we should redistribute the benefits of the mining boom across all of Australia. Tony Abbott says he's the friend of small business. It's not a very friendly act to keep people's tax higher than it otherwise could be. And in terms of the rest of the mining tax, we're committed to getting through our changes. Let's see how we go in the Senate.
OK, Tony Abbott's been critical of the industry super funds and the links with the union movement. It's hard to deny that there are very strong links between the unions and the super funds. Are you saying that union officials are always appropriate choices for those particular boards and running super funds?
Union Abbott is just a union-baiting political conservative. There are 4 or 5 types of superannuation fund in Australia. Your self-managed super fund, your retail fund, which is run by large companies who give profits back to shareholders. You've got government funds. You've also got industry funds. All an industry fund is that a proportion of the directors are nominated by employees and a proportion of the directors are nominated by employers. The industry fund model says all profits go back to members. In other words, they don't have to pay a shareholder. But an industry fund is equally balanced between employee-nominated directors, in several cases, many cases nominated by their union, and employer-nominated directors. What is so absolutely flat earth about Tony Abbott? I mean, Tony Abbott's record on superannuation is to vote against it all the time. In 1992, they didn't want to move it from 3 to 9%. Now they don't want to move it from 9 to 12%. But the Australian Hotels Association, the Master Builders, the Australian Industry Group, the Victorian Employer Chamber of Commerce, these are employer groups, Mr Abbott. They have half the directors. So what he's said is he's attacked every employer group in Australia and said you're just a glove puppet for trade unions. I know that's not true. All union trustees, all employer trustees take their job as being a superannuation trustee first and foremost.